Yeah, so I have my sound off just because Max Mideye is funky. It's been a while since I've touched it. It like has this feature where, yeah, actually, if you have the Mideye on, you just can't change your audio. So yeah, in theory, um, everyone should be able to see me playing now. So I'll just give like a quick intro for what this is. So every Friday, I'm going to be working on my game for an hour, starting at 9 p.m. And along the way, anything that people write in the comments box, I'll keep an eye on it and answer any questions. Um, and yeah, like while I'm just working on whatever. So you can either just watch and be like, oh, that's kind of cool, or feel free to ask anything. So I'm actually going to go back to Hack and Plan here because I forgot what I was doing. So I was working on this combat system. And, oh, I'm getting an error. That's weird. Okay, that's gone. Okay, so I'm trying to think about what I should work on next because I just added this firing for these guys, and what they need to do is actually follow my player around and shoot at me. Right now I just have this hooked up to shoot on my, like when I'm holding down the mouse button. So actually I feel like I should have some paper. What else? Okay. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do now is there's a lot of different systems in here that I tend to forget about exactly how they work, just because I kind of put together these intricate systems that work pretty well on their own. And this game has kind of been around for at least a year now. I'm not sure how long, but I hadn't seriously been developing on it or been developing it until recently. So there's a lot of stuff that I tend to forget about, but then I come back to it and it's pretty easy to figure out like what's going on just because of the way that I put it together, which is nice. One of those things is this system for these guys actually spotting my player. So first thing I'm going to do is actually unclutter my scene here. So I am just going to turn this guy off if I can find him. Is this trader gunship? I'm turning that off. And okay, so now this other one has a, in theory actually it might be on his site here, his 2D site. This I think has a listener's, no, I'm not seeing it here. There should be a listener script somewhere that listens when something collides with the field of view. I know that I have one on my player. Prospector. Huh. Visual FOV. Yeah, and this is the mesh filter. Maybe I think this might be a visual interaction. Huh, no, it's not here. Let me see if I can. I think it's like 2DLL. Yeah, there it is. 2DDL spot listener. Is this being used at all? Okay, it's being used on human prospector listener. So what? Let me view the references on this. Okay, so this is not being used. Huh. That's strange because I feel like it was being used. Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna put some logs in it and make sure that it is not being used. On spotted player on prospected. Is this being called from more than one place? On spotted? No, it's only being called from here. So I think that is being used somewhere. I'm just not quite sure where because the prospector basically it reveals OR nodes on asteroids. And OR nodes have an actor connected to them, and they do have their on spotted called. So maybe it's here, 2DDL. Whatever, I'm just gonna. Oh wait, no, here it is. Human prospector listener. There it is. Okay, yeah, it's being referenced in Unity, which is why I couldn't see. Okay. Okay, so this has on spotted. So the only thing is I forget exactly how it listens. How did I connect these functions? Unspotted, unobscured. When did these get called? Oh, you know what? It might be, they might be hooked up in the interface for 2DDL, which is, 2DDL is actually the asset for these lights that I have. It's a third-party asset that I actually purchased. So, okay, so let me see. Okay, dynamic light. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so they're hooked up in Unity. So there's an event here for unspotted, unobscured, and on viewing. So I'm gonna actually, what I'm gonna need to do is follow the same model to make a prospector listener. But not a prospector listener. It'll be a different kind of listener that will basically it'll listen for when one of these guys sees my player. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that. Okay, so you want to just pull those up for me, just like show it. Okay, that way I don't stream the questions. A new scene when an enemy dies. Okay, so basically there is a way, I mean, there's a basic functionality in Unity that lets you call a function just to load a scene, and that works by index, right? So let me see if I can actually pull up the document for you here. So the easiest way in general when you don't know how to do something in programming is you go to your web browser and type it into Google. And it sounds kind of silly, but it very much it it is done literally everywhere in professional programming. So definitely give it a try. So there's Unity scene management actually changed a little bit, but there's this load scene function here, and there is, you can either do it by scene build index, and there's string scene name, right? So, and I'll show you in just a second why this is called scene build index. So in Unity, if you want to load a scene, you need to actually have it be inside of your build settings. So if you go to edit here and you go to project settings, then you see, I believe it's in player. Oh, actually, this is in build settings, which I will pull up in project settings. I've had Cloud Build been doing this, so it's been a while actually. Yeah, here it is, build settings. You can also do Command Shift B. And see in here, I only have one scene, right? So if you want to add a scene here, you need to actually, you can press add open scenes, for example. So I'll actually show you here on the fly, but I'll remove it from the project. You hit create here, and then you can hit scene. So here's, let's say this is scene 2, right? So I'm going to save my current scene. I'll open up scene 2, and then I will add it as an open scene, right? So there it is, scene 2. And I will take this a little bit farther just for the sake of showing you. So this is what scene 2 looks like, right? It's literally just a blue screen, and my main scene here is all of this, right? So I actually recently, this is an appropriate question because I recently started working on the combat system. In this take damage here, I'm going to have my player quote die, because there is no death animation, it's just a value going to 0. But let's just check if integrity, the current value, is less than or equal to 0. So basically, if I've lost all my health, then I will do this Unity function, which is load scene, which I might have to do scene manager.load scene. So let's see their example. Yeah, they just do scene manager.load scene, other scene name. So I'm going to do, you need to actually import it at the top here. I think that's using scene, yeah, Unity engine.scene management. So there's scene manager.load scene, and the index is 1, right, because it starts at 0. And I don't want to do additive because I believe additive will put it in here. So only specifying will load the scene with single mode. Okay, so I'm just gonna, not sure if I can remove that, but let's see. So yeah, I think if you just give it the scene build index there, then it should load it. So what's gonna happen here is I'm gonna play here, and you'll see my health. It'll start at like 50. So I'll have this dude shoot my player until I'm at health 0. And then it'll load that scene that I just added here, scene 2. So you can see my integrity going down. And so next time I shoot my player, boom, scene 2 just got loaded. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. But basically, you need to decide what it means for a player to actually die. And then whenever that happens, you just use that scene manager function here, .load scene, and do it by index. And again, don't forget that you need to actually add it here. And it's by index 0, and then 1. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that because I don't need it. And I will go back to what I was doing. I guess I'll just delete this again. Is there anything else? Okay. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, okay, so I need to add a listener for when an interceptor actually spots me. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on that. Okay, so I have this spot listener, and I'm just gonna follow the model that I used for the human prospector one. So I'll delete that. Okay. And I'm gonna do some really simple, kind of stupid logic here. So I think what I'm gonna do is when it's looking at my player, I'm just gonna make it shoot forward. I guess I'll make its rotation look at the player for now. And I'll just make it shoot at the player as long as I'm in vision. So yeah, I think that is good. In on viewing, start firing, and on obscured, stop firing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start that. So I'm gonna copy this code actually, and I'm gonna go to my assets. And then I'll go to scripts. Let's see. Got too much stuff going on in my project. Ooh, perfect. I thought I actually have a folder for that. This folder is probably like 2 months old. Okay. Okay, so let's say, I'll just call this Condor, spot listener. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna open that in Writer. I'm gonna wait longer than I'd like to. Unity is thinking. There it is. Okay. Oh, no, it's not there yet. That's the wrong one. Condor, spot listener. There it is. Okay. So I'm gonna paste my code in here. Go to the top, and I will pull out what I do not need. I don't think I need a human actor player. I think. Okay, so one thing I want to do is. Yeah, actually, I think this is fine because I have a system that has these actors on every game object, so it'll figure out polymorphically like what to do with something. So, for example, the player has a human actor attached to it. So in theory, if I spot a human actor, then it will call this human actor's onSpotted function, right? So it shouldn't be onProspected. It could be an onSpotted, but for now, what I might do is a simple implementation where I just determine whether it is the player, and then if it is the player, then start shooting at it, right? So I actually need to think about the best way of doing that. Okay, so go to, let's just say if go dot get component human actor. So I'm first going to create a human actor actor, right? So if whatever we spotted has an actor, which I will assign at the same time as checking, then I think what we can do is actually store this as the target for now. This is not the best way of doing this, but I'm throwing this together sort of fast just because I want to get the system to work, and then I'm going to redesign it to be like more appropriate for the like overlying, basically like architecture of how the game works. So I'll refactor it later and make it work now, basically, which is a pretty common practice. So why don't we just say target equals actor, and then we can say in on viewing, I think we could do. Here's one thing: is I want to make sure that I want to call it once to start firing, and I want to call it once to stop firing. So I think what I'll start with is I'm going to grab this thing's ship controller, right, which I believe manages the firing, if I'm not mistaken. So ship controller, fire weapons, stop firing weapons, so that looks right. So let's go get component ship controller, and I can do that because I know that this thing has a ship controller connected to it. For now, that's how we'll do it. So let's say ship controller dot start, or actually fire weapons, which is a function I might rename. It's called fire weapons because it used to be something you would call every frame, but now it kind of changed to start firing, so it gets called once, and then the projectile gun will keep firing until it's told to stop. Okay, so let me go back to where it was. So on spotted, we'll fire weapons, and on obscured, again, let's check if this is the human actor. Actually, what we should do is check if this game object's, yeah, let's just say if we have a target. So if target is not equal to null, then we want to check if target's game object is the same thing as the game object that just got obscured. Then what we'll do is stop firing at this target. And again, this is just basic Unity. This is like the basic Unity way of doing things, where I just like have a bunch of component references thrown around. This isn't my favorite way of doing it, but it works for a first time. So what I'm going to do now is I think I'll just check whether or not this works. So to do that, I'm going to go to Unity. I gotta wait a little bit because it's compiling. And I will go to this Condor guy. And I'm gonna add a listener here. So spot listener. And I actually need to rename that, but for now that's fine. So go back to Condor. And I'm actually gonna hide this actor in the inspector, so do not serialize that. Why is my tabbing messed up? That's weird. There we go. Okay. So now what I have to do is actually tell the 2DL, I can never pronounce this thing, 2DDL site here to actually use that stuff. So we got an on enter and an on exit, which are respectively our on spotted and on obscured. So what I'm going to do is drag the condor in here, drag the condor in here. Ooh, if I can actually hit it. And then for no function here, I'm going to choose from the spot listeners functions, and there's 3 dynamic game object functions, which is what we're looking for. So basically what dynamic means is that it's not going to show it won't serialize what I can click inside the inspector. It just means that I can have 2DDL manage what game object it's throwing in there. So I'm going to choose on spotted for on enter, and I'm going to choose on obscured for on exit. And what I'm going to do now is actually move my player out of this thing's, I'm going to move this thing's sight out of collision with the player so that we can see it actually start firing once I walk in range of its sight here. So okay, and see, so obviously it's missing. Oh, and it looks like it didn't stop firing, so that's interesting. But yeah, obviously it didn't, it's not actually aiming at me just because I didn't program it to, but yeah. Okay, so why don't we check why it's not stopping? So 2D sight, on obscured, condor spot listener on obscured. And it's probably because this game object is not, it's not being considered the same thing as the human actor. So, and so the reason for that is Not 100% sure the reason for that. If I dug deeper, I'd figure it out. I mean, I'm sure it's because it just doesn't consider them to be the same thing when it's being passed again. So what I'm going to do is think about this a little more. Once I might be able to just compare the actor and have it work, and if that doesn't work, then I'll put more thought into it. So if target is not equal to null, then if target dot get component, let's make another actor, human actor. So if we actually have a human actor, oh wow, actually the reason for this is because I just told it to fire weapons again, so there's 5 minutes of me on stream being an idiot. Okay, so that should say stop firing weapons, not fire weapons. Okay, I think that'll work now. Okay, so I enter, he's pew-pewing, I leave, he stops. So another thing that I want to do, actually this is cool because he didn't stop this time. Wonder why that is. Okay, so that is interesting. I'm gonna take a look at that again, actually. So I enter, and I leave, but I think once I do it again, it doesn't work, so I have a problem with my assignment. No, it worked the second time. I think it's just because of... Huh. No, it's not happening anymore. Push my drill in there. Oh, okay, I can't reproduce that for some reason. I'll just laser back at him. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. While I'm at it, while we're talking about 2DDL, this is the functionality of the excuse me, prospector here. I probably showed this last time, but for those who didn't see it, when you hover, or when you prospect over a part of an asteroid, basically you go around the, I guess the perimeter or of the asteroid. Then you can reveal like the ore nodes that are attached to it, and these all are actual items. So let me pull up my inventory here. Oh, that's the debug canvas is interfering here. But yeah, you can see there's iron and all these other different elements, and I actually have a quantity of each one. So once I pick up one of these things, you can actually see what I pick up here. So let's see. Don't actually know what that is. So I don't know what changed, I think, but it looks like one of these got added. I think this one over here is actually iron, so my iron is at 2. Maybe if I pick this up, then I'll get more iron. Oh, no, that added copper. Okay. So then what is this one? I need to like check with the oh, I should actually make this game bigger while I'm playing it. You can actually see my drill is moving, so I can use the drill too. There's no particle effect yet, but the drill does mine them. One of these is parsium, copper, selenium, whatever. Okay. So actually, I also added in a crafting system recently. So it does actually work. It doesn't have good feedback, but basically if you have the items, you can craft it. And if you don't, then you can't. And in theory, it should add these things to my inventory. Yeah, there is Hummingbird. Sometimes the inventory doesn't refresh. And yeah, it looks like I don't have enough iron for... Anyway, that's an interesting thing. So, yeah, let me think more about what I was doing here. I have to actually think about what this guy should do when he spots the player, right? Because I actually wrote these out. There's a concept of how the player will kind of, or how I guess enemies will react to the player, because this game, it does have a focus on stealth. You're not going to get combat tools, right? So you don't really get weapons that you would expect from like a normal spaceship like RPG game. You're not going to get like blasters and all of that. You basically, you're in a mining ship, a ship that was designed to be able to get resources and get out safely, because of the nature of the area that you're in, which I'll tell you more about the story later. But basically this is a mining laser and this is a mining drill, and you're not an interceptor or frigate or any kind of combat ship. You were designed for mining, and so a big part of the game is that you have to be resourceful and use those tools that you have in a place where you're not supposed to be using those tools, basically. And so a big part is stealth, and avoiding getting seen and knowing which fights to pick and which ones not to, because I imagine that in the future of the development of this game, that at some point it'll be really easy to overextend and get greedy and go for things that can get you killed just because of getting yourself detected. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind why there's all these different lights going on, field of view lights, I should say. Okay, so I'm gonna actually get back to programming. So shooting it works. Having it fire when I enter works. One thing that I want to do is when it's viewing the player, it should be moving to the player, but I'm not going to be doing that just yet. I'm just going to work on making it rotate towards the player. So I'll just do a really quick solution of on viewing here. We'll just do transform.lookAt and try not to hate this solution too much because it's inconsistent, but we'll do transform.lookAt gameObject.transform.position. And I think I'll just give it like a 5. Oh, actually, that's the world.up. Forget how you actually give this a speed. World position. You might not be able to. I should probably. I'll switch that later. I actually have some overrides here. I think I have like rotate. Let me see if I can find my. Oh, now I'm looking for quaternion extensions, rotation extension. Yeah, there's a look at position. Let's get look angle. I forget if I have like a slurp somewhere. Oh yeah, here's one, lerp coroutine slurp over time. The only problem with this is that I can't run it consistently because this is like a one-time call and then it'll happen over a period of time. What I need is I need a consistent rotation per frame. I don't need to figure out a consistent time. But anyway, I will ignore that for now. I'll just use the lookat method. It's a lot easier to go fast when I'm doing this on the fly, so okay. So while I'm looking at something, I'm not checking if it's the player right now, but I should do that. In the future, I'm not exactly sure how this code will look in the future, but I think the human actor should actually manage what the other guy should be doing. I think what I should do is actually is in the human actor, there should be functions for when I'm spotted. And when I am spotted, I should just pass to the other player that they've spotted the human actor. So like use some onSpotted human actor function. And when that happens, the interceptor, for example, will decide, oh, I hate that guy, I'm going to kill him. So I think what I'll do is I'll if I have time in the next 20 minutes, I'll come back and refactor that on stream just to show you. Because one thing I am happy about this project is kind of the way that I'm programming it, because it's not just the tip. It doesn't. I'm trying to avoid the typical Unity pitfalls of stringy code. So I do want to show that later. Anyway, okay, so this guy is not looking at me. So what did I do wrong? On viewing transform.lookAt. Why don't I just do transform.rotation equals transform.getLookRotation 2D. Yeah, that's the extension I made. Towards the game objects transform. Okay, so what I'm doing here is just setting the rotation so it'll instantly look at the player. It's not going to look smooth or anything. It'll just be kind of like always staring at me when I'm inside of its view, which by the way is going to make it impossible for me to leave its view unless I go around this asteroid, which is going to be a mechanic in the future, so that might be interesting to see. Okay, so I'm still doing something wrong here, and that's actually, I didn't hook up, I just remembered I did not hook that event up, so let's do persistent. And yeah, persistent is that when I'm inside of there, it'll be called every frame. So I'm gonna drag Condor in here again. I'm gonna pick Condor Spot Listener on viewing. I'm gonna save, and I'm gonna run this. So now, for real, it should look at me. So we'll see that in just a second. So notice that it popped. And now it's actually it's actually difficult to escape its gunfire. So yeah, the only way, oh, looks like I stepped out of the view. So I can step out of its view there, and then it just, yeah, actually it's doing it for the asteroid actually, because why don't I go ahead and do a quick check on if it's the human actor. So let's push this up here. Okay. So let's see. Actually, yeah, I don't need to even store the actor here. I can just, yeah, okay. So actually, I'm gonna push the Condor a little bit closer to the asteroid. That way you can see that mechanic of going behind it. Okay, so I'm being shot at. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull this guy closer. So you can see 2DDL clipping around this asteroid. It's actually, I don't remember it clipping this weirdly in the past, but one thing that's going on is the OR nodes are here. I need to actually tell it to ignore OR nodes, so that's a thing to think about. Okay, so I wonder why on exit does not get called here. So I'm going to use some logs to see how exactly 2DDL calls these functions, because it looks like it might not call on exit if something is still inside of it. So it might not be calling it for everything. I wonder if I can get around this guy. Yeah, that's not happening. Okay, so let's see if onObscured gets onObscured. It might not. It might just happen. It might have to be everything goes outside of the object for that to be called. So let's see. And if that's the case, then I'll see if there are any additional options to change that, or I'd actually have to just go in and change the source. So we'll see. Okay. You know what? I need to move this guy over. This is bothering me. I'm going to get this asteroid closer to him. Actually, this might be a good test for that. Okay. Unobscured. No, I'm getting obscured. Okay, so I just have my code's just wrong. So, oh, this is wow. Okay, it's more. Actually, that's 30 minutes of me being negligent. There was yeah. I was doing an actor check, but I just wasn't. I was actually firing regardless of whether the actor was a human or not. Compiling. Okay. So yeah, he's not shooting until I actually go in. And then, once I go behind the asteroid, it gets obscured. Okay, if you want to learn coding, which language do you recommend starting with? So I guess it depends on what field you want to enter. For me, I always used to say learn Ruby because it looks a lot like English, because the way that Ruby looks, it has a lot of different ways of building the syntax, which makes it really easy to do something in a way that looks like English. So the way that we can construct, for example, we can construct a sentence by flipping clauses around, kind of like how Yoda does, and Ruby makes it easy to do that as well. And it doesn't require any strange characters, so closing a function is based off of spacing, for example. So I would say you need to decide like what kind of field you want to enter. So if you're going to enter web development, maybe you're going to look more at web development languages. But I definitely recommend at least starting with either Ruby or Python. In my opinion, Ruby is easier to look at than Python. And whenever I want to write a quick script to do something, I start in Ruby. Like, for example, if I wanted to read a bunch of comma-separated values, which, for example, is a spreadsheet. If I wanted to read a spreadsheet and reformat it some way, and it's like 10,000 entries, I might use Ruby to do that, just because of how easy it is to run a script and how easy it is to look at. So I'd still recommend Ruby. Thank you for the game looks cool comment. That is hopefully the reaction we want to get from more people. So thanks again. Okay, so I know next is zero programming. How do I go from nothing to where you are now? Okay. All right. That's an interesting question. I have to think about like when I started in programming. I guess one of the things that confused me most is there are a lot of concepts in programming that you'd like to follow, such as reusability. And sometimes when you're starting out in programming, you kind of twist what that means, and you're like, okay, wait, reusability means that if I put the text here, then I should be able to mimic exactly what that text is doing in another space. But and you could literally do that with copying and pasting, but in programming, it works differently. So you need to mimic the system in a different way, rather than just physically imagine that that the text would be in the same place. So what I mean, so the point of that is that the hardest part of programming is making sure that you think, I guess, like a programmer, for lack of a better phrase there. So like you pick a language and you say, I want to make this thing, right? Because there's a reason to program. You don't just do it for no reason. And you might think, well, I'm programming, it's just for fun, right? It's a hobby. But when you're doing it for fun, or when you're doing it as a hobby, there's always an end goal. For example, if you want to print hello world 1,000 times, you're going to write a script to print hello world 1,000 times. So I recommend pick a project that you want to make, and then as you try to make it, you're going to hit a roadblock, and every time you hit a roadblock, figure out how to solve it, and then keep going forward. And just do that with a language that's easy for you. Okay. So is Ruby on Rails good for web development? What fields is Python good for? Similarly, what fields is Ruby on Rails good for? Okay, so Ruby on Rails is a framework. Well, actually, it's called Rails now. It's a framework for Ruby that is specifically for back end of web development. I do recommend it for web development. It's very fun to work in, and it's pretty popular. It's getting less popular now that Node exists, because then people can just write JavaScript both for back end and front end. But it is good for it. Python is good for a lot of different things. People say that it's supposed to be better mathematically, and it's definitely faster than Ruby. It can be used for the same thing. So there's a framework called, I think, there's Django is the framework. I think the primary backend framework in Python that most people use. So it's good for web development, and I guess also mathematical applications. And some people actually write stuff in Python for extensions. So for example, there's a 3D CAD called Blender, and it's very customizable because it runs on interpreted Python scripts that let you write like easy code that is supposedly fast. You know, I can't actually speak to the speed of it, but it's supposed to be fast. But both Ruby and Python can kind of be used for everything. But Rails is definitely, or Ruby, they're both primarily web development. I don't want to say that exactly for Python. I'm not 100% sure on the percentages there, but they're both very good for web development. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Okay, so totally lost track of where I was. Unviewing. Okay, so I think what I might do with the remainder of my time is I will not finish, but I'm going to refactor how this spot listener works. So if I can remember what I said earlier on how I'm going to make this work with the human actor. Okay, so yeah, what I'll do is I'm going to make some functions in the human actor that that occur when one of these when any of these happen, right? So let's go ahead and go to the human actor, and let's have an on spotted. And I believe there's another. It's a function I do something similar in. Let me see if I can find it. Not seeing it. Okay. What I'll do is add these here then. So I think what I want to do here is on spotted. I think I want the player to. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to go to the actor class, and I'm going to do. Wait, no, we have an unspotted, we have an unobscured. Okay, so these are virtual. I think we just need to add an on viewing. I actually created these ahead of time. Wow, should keep up more with my code. So there's on viewing. On viewing. Okay, so on O viewing. Oops. So I'm gonna go to our human actor. Human actor. I'm gonna remove these, paste this in, and I'm gonna set these to override. And what all these should do is call a specific function for like on spotted by human actor, right? Or on spotted human actor, right? So why don't I go ahead and then call spotter dot on spotted human actor, right? And then we'll do the same for on human actor was obscured from previous spotter, and then we'll call previous spotter. Actually, this should just be viewer, I guess. Viewer. Okay, so viewer dot on viewing human actor. And these should all be called with the human actor. Okay, so now what I have to do is actually create these on human actor was obscured, on spotted human actor, on viewing human actor classes, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And what I need to do is just go to the actor class. Actor. And this is just going to have, I'm going to make another region. FOV human actor spotting. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is just remove that, so like human actor. And I'll write the actual code inside of these later. These all need to be virtual so that I can override them down the inheritance chain. So I have like, I think the Condor, I forget which actor it is. Let's see. Oh, it's just a regular actor. So I need to override that later, but I'll throw it in the actor code for now. Okay, so previous spotter dot on human actor was obscured. Don't actually need that there. And on viewing. Whoops, I'm not paying attention. On viewing. Okay. Okay, so remember with the same signature, on viewing human actor. That's what that should be called. Okay. So let me see. Now I have all of this code here. So what I'm going to do is actually just call GameObject.getComponent actor, actor dot onSpotted. OnSpotted. Yeah, that's the right thing. OnSpotted. OnSpotted. I guess go dot actor. Actually, what I need to do is I need to get our component, right? So I need to get go game object. So that's this game object dot get component actor. So the actor attached to the current game object should now spot, so onSpotted, the actor that is passed through here, right? Because that's the one that actually got hit by the thing. So go dot get component actor, and I will make that code look better later. Okay, so I can actually just remove all of this code here, and so what I'm gonna do is in the actor, what I'm gonna do is make it so that when the human actor is spotted, we get our fire weapons. We get our ship controller and we fire the weapons, right? So this way I'm not performing a bunch of checks to see, is the human actor, is this the whatever actor. It's just that if it happens to be the human actor will tell us, I'm the human actor, start shooting at me. This is, yeah, so that doesn't make any sense. It's because it's pretty advanced. So yeah, it's basically kind of this like complex polymorphic inheritance chain. And actually, if you have any questions about that, you can request a video in the comments, because I don't have enough time today to answer it. But yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this up so that I can show it in time. Okay, so then it should also be on obscured and then on viewing. Okay, so in actor, on viewing human actor, transform.rotation equals transform.getLookRotation, viewer. Oh, actually, this should be human actor. Okay, previous spotter should be human actor, and I can make those better named, but I'll do that later. Okay, so if we're viewing the human actor, then we should look at the human actor. If we just spotted the human actor, we should start firing, and if the human actor was obscured, then we should stop firing. Okay. Why is this never overridden? Yeah, it's not yet. It will be though, I promise. Okay, so I'm going to comment out all this code. Okay, and in theory this should work, but we like to say that a lot in software, break things and then wonder why it's not working. Okay, so let's see if this works. Mac compiling spinner. Okay. Okay, so if I go in here, it's not shooting. So something went wrong. So let's take a look in there and see why. Actor.onSpotted other actor. Okay, and that's because actually we should see the human actors onSpotted, unobscured, on viewing. Okay, so am I calling onSpotted? Looks like I'm calling our actors onSpotted of the other actor. Okay, and what that should do... Oh wait, no, okay, I think I reversed that. Okay, so I believe I reversed that, so let me go ahead and see. So the other game object was spotted by our game object. Okay. And we'll do the same for unobscured. Oops. Let me copy this line. Okay. Let's see if that works. If it doesn't work, then I will have to go anyway. Oh, are there any more questions? No. Okay. Let's see if I walk through here. Okay. And it looks like that's working as intended. So that might look useless because it's doing the same thing, but it feels very nice because in Unity you often get lost in forgetting, like there's no hard reference saying this thing has a component in the code. You would have to perform a check. It's nice here because we know that everything has an actor, and this actor inheritance chain can actually manage how things should act, and it makes it very easy for me to add new enemies. So I am actually going to leave off on that one. So make sure to hit subscribe and check back actually next Friday. I do this every Friday at 9 p.m. If you want to see a stream. And yeah, bring your questions, bring your comments, and or you can just develop something at the same time, get the feeling of community. So with that said, I will see you guys next time, and have a good one.